And we're back. Welcome to Another World Audiobooks. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you are enjoying this brand new book here as much as I am enjoying narrating it. This second chapter here gets into a lot of more characters, and there's a lot of character voices and stuff. It's been so much fun to narrate. I think I'm really enjoying this book so far, and I hope you are as well. Please get in touch. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, suggestions, comments, snide remarks, anything you got. Send it my way, anotherworldaudiobooks@gmail.com, or you can comment on YouTube, comment on Spotify. You can comment on social media as well. All those links are below, or you can go to anotherworldaudiobooks.com, and that's the best place for everything relating to this podcast, anotherworldaudiobooks.com, as well as getting a free audiobook, which, hey, we've done a lot of audiobooks on this podcast. If you want the free full version, no strings attached, just go ahead and go to the website and you can request any of the books in the Another World Audiobooks library, and there's a lot of them. So make sure to check that out, as well as the Patreon. If you want to sign up to become a patron, I would love to be bringing more longer episodes, longer episodes, as well as some special stuff that is patron only coming down the pipe. So I think you guys are going to want to definitely be in the loop for that. So the best way to do that is to sign up to become a patron, which is a great way to support the podcast as well, because this is a labor of love, and any support that you guys can send my way, as well as just sharing the podcast, means the world and makes a huge difference. So now, without further ado, let's jump into the next chapter of Meet the Tiger. Chapter 2. The Naturalist. Algernon de Britton-Lomos Cooper was one of the genial algaes made famous by Mr. P.G. Wodehouse, and accordingly he often ejaculated, "What?" to show that he could hardly believe his own brilliance. But now he ejaculated, "What?" to show that he could hardly believe his own ears. "It's perfectly true," said Patricia, "and he's coming to lunch." "Wow!" gasped Algy feebly, and relapsed into open-mouthed amazement. He was one of those men who are little changed by the passage of time. He might have been 25 or 35. Studying him very closely, which few took the trouble to do, one gathered that the latter age was more probably right. He was fair, round-faced, pink and white. "He was quite tame," said Patricia. "In fact, I thought he was awfully nice, but he would keep on talking about the terrifying things that he thought were going to happen. He said people were trying to murder him." "Dementia persecutoria," opined Algy. "What?" The girl shook her head. "He was as sane as anyone I've ever met." "Extensio cruris paranoia," suggested Algy sagely. "What on earth's that?" she asked. "An irresistible desire to pull legs." Patricia frowned. "You'll be thinking I'm crazy next," she said. "But somehow you can't help believing him. It's as if he were daring you to take him seriously." "Well, if he manages to wake up this backwater, I'll be grateful to him," said the man. "Are you going to invite me to stay and meet the ogre?" He stayed. Towards 1 o'clock, Patricia sighted Templar coming up the road, and went out to meet him at the gate. He was dressed as he had been the day before, but he had fastened his collar and put on a tie. He greeted her with a smile. "Still alive, you see," he remarked. "The ungodly prowled around last night, but I poured a bucket of water over him, and he went home. It's astonishing how easy it is to damp the ardour of an assassin." "Isn't that getting a bit stale?" she protested, although she was annoyed to find that the reproof she forced into her tone lacked conviction. "I'm surprised you should say that," he returned gravely. "Personally, I'm only just beginning to appreciate the true succulence of the jest." "At least I hope you won't upset everybody at lunch," she said, and his eyes twinkled. "I'll try to behave," he promised. "At any other time it would have been a fearful effort, but today I am on my party manners." There were cocktails in the drawing-room. Bacon's society prided itself on being up-to-date, and there Algy was brought forward and introduced. Delighted. Long-expected pleasure, what?" he babbled. "Is it really?" asked the saint guilelessly. Algy screwed a pane of glass into his eye and surveyed the visitor with awe. "So, you're the mystery man," he prattled on. You don't mind being called that? I'm sure you won't. Everybody calls you the Mystery Man, and I honestly think it suits you most awfully well, don't you know? Fancy taking the pillbox. Isn't it too frightfully draughty? But of course, you're one of these strong, hearty he-men we see in the pictures.
Algy, you're being rude, interrupted the girl.
Am I really? Only meant for good fellowship and all that sort of thing, what? No offence, old banana pip, you know, don't you know?
Do I? Don't I? Asked the saint, blinking.
The girl rushed into the pause, for she already had a good estimate of the saint's perverse sense of fun, and dreaded its irresponsibility. She felt that at any moment he would produce a revolver and ask if they knew anyone worth murdering.
Algy, be an angel and go and tell Aunt Agatha to hurry up.
That is Mynheer Hans Bloom's nephew, observed the saint calmly as the door closed behind the talkative one. He is 34. He lived for some years in America. In the city of London he is known as a man with mining property in Transvaal. Patricia was astonished.
You know more about him than I do, she said.
I make it my business to pry into my neighbour's affairs, he answered solemnly. It mayn't be courteous, but it's cautious.
Perhaps you know all about me.
She was tempted to challenge him. He turned on her a clear blue eye which held a mocking gleam. Only the important things. That you were educated at Mayfield. That Miss Girton isn't your aunt, but a very distant cousin. That you've led a very quiet life and travelled very little. You're dependent on Miss Girton because she has the administration of your property until you're 25. That is, for another 5 years.
Are you aware, she demanded dangerously, that you're most impertinent?
He nodded. Quite unpardonably, he admitted. I can only plead in excuse that when there's a price on one's head, one can't be too particular about one's acquaintances. And he looked meditatively at the yellow-golden contents of his glass, which he had held untasted since it was given him. Your health, he wished her, and, as he set down the empty glass, he smiled and added, At least I've no fear of you. She had no time to find an adequate answer before Algy returned with Miss Girton and a tall, thin, leather-faced man who was introduced as Mr. Bloom. Pleased to meet you, murmured the saint. So sorry T.T. Deeps are going badly in the market, but this is just the time to make your corner. Bloom started, and his spectacles fell off and dangled at the length of their black-watered ribbon as the Boer stared blankly at Simon Templar. You must be very much on the inside in the city, Mr. Templar, said Bloom. Extraordinary, isn't it? Agreed Simon with his most saintly smile. Then he was being introduced to a new arrival, Sir Michael Lapping. The ex-judge shook hands heartily, peering short-sightedly into the saint's face.
You remind me of a man I once met in Old Bailey, and I'm hanged if I can remember whether it was a professional encounter or not.
I was just going to, said the saint blandly, if a trifle cryptically. His name was Harry the Duke, and you gave him 7 years. He escaped abroad 6 years ago, but I hear he's back in England some months. Be careful how you get out after dark. It should have fallen to the saint to take Miss Girton in to lunch, but his hostess passed him on to Patricia, and the girl was thus able to get a word with him aside.
You've already broken your promise twice, she said. Do you have to go on like this?
I'm merely attracting attention, he said. Having now become the centre of interest, I shall rest on my laurels. He was as good as his word, but Patricia was unreasonably irritated to observe that he had succeeded in attaining his shamelessly confessed object. The others of the party felt vaguely at a disadvantage, and favoured the saint with furtive glances in which was betrayed not a little superstitious awe. Once the saint caught Patricia's eye, and the silent mirth that was always bubbling up behind his eyes spread for a moment into an open grin. She frowned and tossed her pretty head, and entered upon an earnest discussion with Lapping. But when she stole a look at the saint to see how he had taken the snub, she saw that beneath his dutifully decorous demeanour he was shaking with silent laughter, and she was furious. The saint had travelled, he talked interestingly, if with a strong egotistical bias, about places as far removed from civilization and from each other as Vladivostok, Armenia, Moscow, Lapland, Chungking, Pernambuco, and Sierra Leone. There seemed to be few of the wilder parts of the world which he had not visited, and few of those in which he had not had adventures. He had won a gold rush in South Africa, and lost his holdings in a poker game 24 hours later. He had run guns into China, whiskey into the United States, and perfume into England. He had deserted after a year in the Spanish Foreign Legion. He had worked his passage across the Atlantic as a steward, tramped across America, fought his way across Mexico during a free-for-all revolution, picked up a couple of £1,000 in the Argentine, and sailed home from Buenos Aires in a millionaire's suite, to lose nearly all the fruits of his wanderings on Epsom Downs.
"You'll find Bacon very dull after such an exciting life,"
said Miss Girton. "Somehow I don't agree," said the saint. "I find the air very bracing." Bloom adjusted his spectacles and inquired, "And what might your employment be at the moment?" "Just now," said the saint suavely, "I'm looking for $1 million. I feel that I should like to end my days in luxury, and I can't get along on less than 15,000 a year." Algy squawked in merriment. He yapped. "Jolly good. Too awfully horribly priceless. What? "Quite," the saint concurred modestly.
"I fear," said Lapping, "that you will hardly find your $1 million in Bacon."
The saint put his hands on the tablecloth and studied his fingernails with a gentle smile. "You depress me, Sir Michael," he remarked. "And I was feeling very optimistic. I was told that there were $1 million to be picked up here, and one can hardly disbelieve the word of a dying man, especially when one has tried to save his life. It was at a place called Air Pahit in the Malay States. He'd taken to the jungle. They'd hunted him through every town in the peninsula, ever since they located him settling down in Singapore to enjoy an unjust share of the loot, and one of their Malay trackers had caught him and struck a kriss in him. I found him just before he passed out, and he told me most of the story. But I'm boring you." "Not a bit, dear old spout, not a bit," rejoined Algy eagerly, and he was supported by a chorus of curiosity. The saint shook his head. "But I'm quite certain I shall bore you if I go on," he stated obstinately. "Now, suppose I'd been talking about Brazil. Did you know that there was a village behind an almost impassable range of hills, covered with thick poisonous jungle where some descendants of Cortez's crowd still live? They're gradually being absorbed into the native stock, Mayas, by intermarriage, but they still wear swords and talk good Castilian. They could hardly believe my rifle. I remember—" And it was impossible to wheedle him back to any further discussion of his $1 million. He made his excuses as soon after coffee as was decently possible, and spoke last to Patricia. "When you get to know me better, as you must, you'll learn to forgive my weakness."
"I suppose it's nothing but a silly desire to cause a sensation,"
she said coldly. "Nothing but that," said the saint with disarming frankness, and went home with a comfortable feeling that he had had the better of the exchange. In spite of the protestations of Oris, he took a walk during the afternoon. He wanted to be familiar with the territory for some distance around, and thus his route took him inland towards the uplands, which sheltered the village on the south. It was the first time he had surveyed the ground, but his hunting experience had given him a good eye for country, and at the end of 3 hours' hard tramping he had every detail of the district mapped in his brain. It was on the homeward hike that he met the stranger. His walk had been as solitary as a walk in North Devon can be. He had not even encountered any farm labourers, for the land for miles around was unclaimed moor. But this man was so obviously harmless, even at a distance of half a mile, that the saint frowned thoughtfully. The man was in +4s of a dazzling purple hue. He had a kind of haversack slung over his shoulder, and he carried a butterfly net. He moved aimlessly about, sometimes in short violent rushes, sometimes walking, sometimes crawling and rooting about on his hands and knees. He did not seem to notice Templar at all, and the saint, moving very silently, came right up and stood over him during an exceptionally zealous burrowing exploration among some gorse bushes. While Simon watched, the naturalist made a sudden pounce, accompanied by a gasp of triumph, and wriggled back into the open with a small beetle held gingerly between his thumb and forefinger. The haversack was hitched round, a matchbox secured, the insect imprisoned therein, and the box carefully stowed away. Then the entomologist rose to his feet, perspiring and very red in the face. "Good afternoon, sir," he remarked genially, mopping his brow with an appallingly green silk handkerchief. "So it is," agreed the saint. Mr. Templar had a disconcerting trick of taking the most conventional speech quite literally, a device which he had adopted because it threw the onus of continuing the conversation upon the other party. "An innocuous and healthy pastime," explained the stranger, with a friendly and all-embracing sweep of his hand. "Fresh air, exercise, all in the most glorious scenery in England." He was a half-head shorter than the saint, but a good 2 stone heavier. His eyes were large and childlike, behind a pair of enormous horn-rimmed glasses, and he wore a straggly pale walrus moustache. The sight of this big, middle-aged man in the shocking clothes, with his ridiculous little butterfly net, was as diverting as anything the saint could remember. "Of course, you're Dr. Khan," said the saint, and the other started. "How did you know?" "I always seem to be giving people surprises," complained Simon, completely at his ease. "It's so simple. You look less like a doctor than anyone but a doctor could look, and there's only one doctor in Bakem. How's trade?" Suddenly, Khan was no longer genial. "My profession?" he said stiffly. "I don't quite understand." "You are one of many," sighed the saint. "Nobody ever quite understands me, and I wasn't talking about your new profession, but about your old trade." Khan looked very closely at the younger man, but Simon was gazing at the sea, and his face was inscrutable except for a faintly mocking twist at the corners of his mouth, a twist that might have meant anything. "You're clever, Templar." "Mr. Templar to the aristocracy, but saint to you." Simon corrected him benevolently. "Naturally, I'm clever. If I wasn't, I'd be dead. And my especial brilliance is an infallible memory for faces." "You're clever, Templar, but this time you're mistaken, and persisting in your delusion is making you forget your manners." The saint favoured Khan with a lazy smile. "Well, well," he murmured. "To err is human, is it not? But tell me, Dr. Khan, why you allow an automatic pistol to spoil the set of that beautiful coat? Are you afraid of a scarabaeus turning at bay? Or is it that you're scared of a great white woolly wooga-wooga jumping out of a bush?" And the saint swung his heavy staff as though weighing its efficiency as a bludgeon, and the clear blue eyes, with that lively devil of mischief glimmering in their depths, never left Khan's red face. Khan glared back chokingly. "Sir," he exploded at length, "let me tell you. I, too, was once an inspector of horse marines to the Swiss Navy." The saint encouraged him gently, and when Khan's indignation proved to have become speechless, he added, "But why am I so unsociable? Come along to the pillbox and have a spot of supper. I'm afraid it'll only be tinned stuff. We stopped having fresh meat since a seagull died after tasting the Sunday joint, but our brandy is Napoleon, and Oris grills sardines marvellously." He linked his arm in Khan's, and urged the naturalist along, chattering irrepressibly. It was an almost incredible tribute to the charm which the saint could exert to record that he coaxed Khan into acceptance in 3 minutes, and had him chuckling at a grossly improper limerick by the time they reached the pillbox. "You're a card, Templar," said Khan, as they sat over martinis in the sitting-room, and the saint raised indulgent eyebrows. "Because I called your bluff?" "Because you didn't hesitate." "He who hesitates," said the saint sensuously, "is bossed. No mug-hopper will ever spiel this baby." They talked politics and literature through supper. The saint had original and heretical views on both subjects, as dispassionately as the most ordinary men, met together in the most ordinary circumstances, might have done. After Oris had served coffee and withdrawn, Khan produced a cigar case, and offered it to the saint. Templar looked, and shook his head with a smile. Not even with you, dear heart, he said, and Khan was aggrieved. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm so glad you haven't wasted a cigar, then. If I give you my word, I'll take it, but I won't take your cigars. Khan shrugged, took one himself and lighted it. The saint settled himself more comfortably in his armchair. I'm glad to see you don't pack a gun yourself, observed the doctor presently. It makes one so unpopular, letting off artillery and things all over Devonshire, said Simon. You can only do that in shockers. In real life, the police make all sorts of awkward enquiries if you go slaughtering people here and there because they look cockeyed at you, but I don't advise anyone to bank on my consideration for the nerves of the neighbourhood when I'm in my own home. Khan sat forward abruptly. We've bluffed for an hour and a half by the clock, he said. Suppose we get down to brass tacks. I'll suppose anything you like, assented Simon. I know you've got some funny game on, and I know you aren't one of those dude detectives because I've made inquiries. You aren't even Secret Service. I know something about your record, and I gather you haven't come to Bakem because you've got an idea you'd like to vegetate and rule England and grow string beans. You aren't the sort that goes anywhere unless you can see easy money or big trouble waiting for collection. I might have decided to quit before I stopped something. You might, but your sort doesn't quit while there is kicking left in them. Besides, what do you think I've been doing all the time I've been down here? Hunting the elusive Wagga Wagga, presumably, drawled the saint. Khan made a gesture of impatience. I've told you, you're clever, he said. And I meant every letter of it, in capital italics. But you don't have to pretend you think I'm a fool, because I know you know better. You're here for what you can get, and I've a good idea what that is. If I'm right, it's my job to get in your way all I can, unless you work with me. Templar, I'm paying you the compliment of putting the cards on the table, because from what I hear, I'd rather work with you than against you. Now, why can't you come across? The saint had sunk deeper into his armchair. The room was lighted only by a smoky oil lamp that Oris had brought in with the coffee, for the sky had clouded over in the late afternoon, and night had come on early. There are just 1,000,000 reasons why I shouldn't come across, said the saint tranquilly. They were lost to the Confederated Bank of Chicago quite a time ago, and I want them all to myself, my good Khan. You don't imagine you could get away with it? I can think of no limits to my ingenuity in getting away with things, said the saint calmly. He moved in the shadows, and a moment later he said quietly, There is a 1,000,001st argument which prevents me coming across just now, Khan, and that is that I never allowed tiger cubs to listen in on my confessions. What do you mean? asked Khan. I mean, said the saint in a clear, strong voice, that at this moment there's some son of a gun peeking through that embrasure. I've got him covered, and if he so much as blinks, I'm going to shoot his eyelids off. I love old books like this that have the old-timey slang, so no mug hopper will ever spiel this baby. I think you should, that's the Another World Audiobooks challenge here this week. Can you find a way to work that into a normal conversation, telling somebody that no mug hopper is ever going to spiel this baby? But basically, a mug hopper, I had to look this up, but apparently a mug hopper is a slang term for a policeman or a copper. So it's basically saying that no cop is ever going to crack, and then this baby is the object in question. So I think he's saying that no police person is ever going to get him to talk or make him say something that he doesn't want to say. So they're like, yeah, no cop is ever going to crack this guy or something like that. So basically, yeah, if you want to use that, that's a freebie there. So no mug hopper will ever spiel this baby. It's just a wonderful phrase. I love it. We should definitely bring that back. So thank you guys for listening. Hope you are enjoying it so far. And like I said, I am working on like 3 or 4 audiobooks all here at the same time. So there's a lot going on. And I want to be able to bring you more awesome audiobook content. And I'm going to be actually putting some stuff, patron-only stuff. There might be a little sample on the podcast, but you're going to be getting some patron-only exclusives that are coming. I've been wanting to do that for ages and ages and ages, and just getting to that point. So that is going to make being a patron very much worth it. So definitely go and check that out. Again, that's anotherworldaudiobooks.com. And yeah, I'm just really hoping to grow the podcast, be able to bring you bigger, longer, more episodes, more audiobooks. This is so much fun. I love doing this, and the audience that we built over the last 8 years, whatever it's been, is just incredible. And I'm so grateful for everyone who listens to the podcast, shares the podcast, and for all of our awesome patrons. So if you want to check that out, again, that's anotherworldaudiobooks.com. Thanks, guys, and we'll catch you next week.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.